Two real estate giants who conduct a lot of their business online are now fighting it out in court. Compass is suing Zillow, claiming Zillow's website engages in anti-competitive practices to dominate digital home listings. Zillow says Compass is trying to hoard the listings. So our legal expert, Whitney Traylor, joins us now, and you've read this complaint. This is an antitrust kind of violation thing. What does that mean, an antitrust action?
Right. So antitrust law dates back to the 1800s, and the notion behind antitrust, it's a little counterintuitive to capitalism, right? Because the notion behind capitalism is get as big as you can, dominate the competition, make as much money as you can. Right. But antitrust says if you do it in the wrong way, if you monopolize the market and you do that in an unfair way, this can be an antitrust violation. And the point is because if you drive out the competition with unfair practices, then the consumer is just left with one provider, and they're not going to, they could get bad service and they don't have anywhere else to go. And so the idea is that competition actually makes companies better, and it's good for the consumer. And so what they're arguing here is that Zillow engaged in anti-competitive practices by in a couple of ways. They have the Zillow ban, so that means if Compass is another real estate brokerage that lists homes online. Zillow says, hey, if you list homes off of our site, or you're not on our site for a day, it's listed somewhere else, we're going to ban you from being on our site at all. And so Compass, the way they work, they first list their homes internally so them and the agents can see it. Then it goes on a coming soon so the public can see it. Then it goes on MLS for Zillow. And so they're not able to get on Zillow because they've already had it marketed on their own website. And so Compass is saying, Zillow, this is unfair antitrust, and that it's going to hurt the consumer.
That's interesting. That's an interesting case. Let me ask you, why did Compass decide to choose New York? Because I know that they filed this complaint federally through New York, but why New York's court?
Yeah, that's a good question. And a lot of times when you have these national companies, you can sue wherever they're doing business. So they could have sued in any state. And this happens a lot of times. You'll see people who are suing Walmart or whatever going to California because the laws are more favorable to them there. And so it could be part forum shopping. And then Compass has their principal place of business in New York. So they're alleging essentially all this harm happened in New York. So that's why they
big market too.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
It is. Yeah. Well, all the way around doesn't seem fair to the consumer in a very tight housing situation, and has been for a very long time if you're trying to find a place. But what do they want? I mean, are they asking for money? Are they asking to change?
Right. They're asking for a few things. So they're asking for a preliminary injunction to prevent Zillow from doing this. They're asking for treble damages, 3 times their damages, because it's an antitrust violation. They're asking for attorney fees, of course, things like that. But what's interesting here, and they haven't identified a number, and you don't have to. The complaint was just filed, so you don't have to identify how much you're actually seeking this early in the case. But one of the issues, so every case comes down to two things. Liability, did they do something wrong? We'll find out. And then the damages, how much did that cost you? And so here, you can't get awarded damages if they're speculative. So if you go in and say, I think we lost this much. So I think Compass is going to have a hard time because they're going to have to show, here's how we were harmed by not being on your website, by not being on Zillow. So the damages aspect, I think, will be a big part of this case. But I'm not sure they're interested as much in the money as the preliminary injunction saying, hey, let's stop this.
You can't do this.
Right.
Correct.
And I would imagine that other, real estate firms might follow suit or might share the same sentiment. So the outcome of this case, Whitney, what does this mean for buyers and sellers moving forward?
Right. And there's probably viewers looking at this and saying, okay, this is a massive lawsuit. How does this, funnel down to me? And a lot of times it may not have a direct impact. It's not like there was some kind of a product defect and you could go back and return your money. It's hard to say how it actually affects the individual. I mean, we know it affects people because the way they're doing the Zillow ban, and the other part of the Zillow ban is that Zillow includes information that they think isn't accurate, like its estimate, the Zestimate.
Zestimate.
Yes, exactly. Okay, the Zestimate, and some of the statistics, I think, around crime and things, they disagree with that. So they're saying, hey, this is, impacting us. So the way it would impact, I think, the consumer is that they would have more choice. And this is, if there really is an antitrust violation, then this is going to remedy that and actually foster the competition. And so, when you have the competition, you can get innovative and things like that. And that's what Compass is saying, is that we do things a little bit different. So the fact that you're excluding us is harming the consumer because they don't have the benefit of what Compass is bringing to the table.
Yeah, I mean, if you search for a home price, all you get is Zillow. So I can see what they're saying.
And part of the partners, another part of this is that they've entered into these anti-competitive agreements with Redfin and EXP.
Yeah.
And of course, Redfin is huge too. They also impose the Zillow ban. So if the listing is off of Zillow for one day, then it doesn't go on Zillow, Redfin, or EXP. So that's pretty significant.
Well, we will wait and see on this one. Thank you.
Sure.